Good afternoon. I want to sit back. Just pause, sit back, take stock. My name is Kirsty Dignam, and I'm here to look at the energies for the weekly video, Monday's Musings, today on the 13th of July 2026. In a variety of ways, however it chooses to come through, always remembering the container that is myself within it. I'm doing this reading the day before the new moon in Cancer. We have Mercury retrograde in Cancer as well. We have a lot of energies going into that stillness, that watery movement, that intuitive awareness of our own emotions. And with that, there is a far greater question rising. How able are we to hold it? To not contain something or be broken open by something, but to stand with pride in the vastness of our own potential, in the expansion of our own process, personality, journey, experience. One of the things I've mentioned the new moon in Cancer, and I've written a blog on that. It's out, available on Audible and in written form now on my website and on Spotify. And the theme tune actually was from The Greatest Showman. You know, we're seeing a lot of things play out, right? But the song was From Now On. From now on, from this moment of recognizing not everything that glitters is gold, from understanding many of the outdated stories that have been rising on deeper levels, from the training that we have been given since 2020 actually. What have we discovered? Not about the outside. Many of us would have hopefully realized that there is no understanding what is out there until we can comprehend what is in here, because it's what is in here that will translate what's out there. So from now on, from this moment in time, how able are we to lead with what we have gained? Or to recognize that's what we're doing, in particular with secondary gains, the subconscious hidden aspects that are playing out in the background. How much do we trust our own ability to make the choices that are needed if we want something different? That can be our thought process. You know, look up where Cancer is in your chart. That could be the way that you love something or someone. That could be the way that you create. That could be how you connect to your ancestors or to situations, dynamics. Yes, thank you, dramas that are playing out around you. How we relate to each other, the world, ourselves within it, our experiences, our connection, whether it's source, whether it's spirit, whether it's the land, how we actually relate with the ideas that pop into our head, with the fears, with the joys, with the excitement, with the anxieties, with the emotions, with the energy that is constantly moving, the energy in motion. How do we relate to that? How do we relate to the very thing that initiates change? We get so caught up in the end game, the outcome, what we actually want. How do we relate to the process, the feelings that are necessary in order to provide that? Are we trying to skip over it? Do we judge them? Would we rather be without them? Are we looping over certain aspects without embracing all of it? How well can we hold space for ourselves by creating room from within, expansion from within, going beyond what we think, what has always been, our experiences? Are we willing to do that? So there is something going on astrologically, which I don't want to get too much into details with. I've actually looked online because I can't remember the name. The Barbault basket, I've probably pronounced that totally wrong. It's got here, it's a rare planetary alignment in July involving Jupiter, Pluto, Uranus and Neptune, forming a basket shape that symbolizes collective transformation and societal reset. Now, one thing I want to make clear here is rare planetary alignment almost symbolizes, I think it's from the 19th to the 21st, symbolizes that actually there's just this one moment in time. Okay. Again, where are we focusing on one aspect? Now, that's not to say we can't go back to something, particularly with Mercury and retrograde in Cancer, go back to something on an emotional level that may be triggered, or that may be inviting us to look at it from a different angle and gain wisdom that we hadn't quite received at that point. However, to believe that something changes in one moment is very, very naive. Now, of course, we have the Tower card in the tarot, where it's almost like things will come crashing down. Of course, death itself can be very can appear almost out of the blue, but change is a process. So to believe that one moment in time, one scenario, one person, one experience is going to shift something that is beyond is very, very naive, and kind of shirks responsibility on an individual and a collective level. So much as this basket thing is a beautiful thing, or has the potential to be a beautiful thing, it is one of many potentials. Okay, keep that in mind this week. The other thing, let me just look at the time. How are we doing for time? Yes, okay, so we're okay at the moment. The other thing, time, right? The other thing is to be aware of the underlying message. This is a basket. This is to do with how strong the handle is that we have on things, how able we are to hold things. So all the potential in the world doesn't mean jack shit if you're not going to act on it, or if you're going to act on it from a place that no longer serves you, or, you know, we can try and create something different, but if we don't look at the energy that's underneath it, even the minute aspects that's underneath it, then nothing is going to change. Sometimes that awareness doesn't come until we're faced with something that rocks the cradle. Now I'm seeing the basket as a cradle, right? That rocks the cradle, that, you know, shifts things within us that can be very similar to something we've experienced, but it is there just to bring up the reaction that we've had to it. Sometimes we don't know the underlying energy until we really shake things up. And this week, potentially, yes, there is a lot of positive, but that may come from a bit of a shake-up first, a bit of a reality check first. So what else do we have that it has written here? So I've said it involves Jupiter, Pluto, Uranus and Neptune. It can be a societal reset, of course, yes. The French astrologer Andre Barbault was, according to this, a pioneer in mundane astrology. So he studied long-term cycles, and as a result managed to predict many things throughout time, including the pandemic. And this basket does take us back to that energy. It takes us back not to go over it, but to look at what we've gained as a result, who we've become as a result. You know, these big things can happen in our life, and they can make us or break us, right? Sometimes both. Break us and then make us, you know, or make us through their breaking, whatever. But the chance here is to look at what has shifted, how much we have grown, how much we have evolved, or not, as the case may be. And there's no judgment there, but it is about recognizing long-term cycles, long-term patterns. The other thing as well, because we can have a wisdom of a long-term pattern, sometimes we can predict something based on how it's been and not how it could be. Okay, so be mindful of that this week. We can see things playing themselves out, and yes, they have the potential to go a certain way, but they have many, many potentials, and that's going to take constant choice of where our focus is at. Okay, we have Jupiter and Leo, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, very expansive of the heart, but very expansive of all things that are in the heart, our fears included. Okay, so just being mindful of that. It's not about getting rid of any of them, just having awareness. Awareness itself will allow the balance and the restoration of whatever is needed. So what else do we have here? So it talks about geometric patterns, which I've already spoke about. There's lots of sextiles and trines and oppositions going on. I'm not an astrologer, so I'm not going to look into any of that. What I want to look at, beyond the peak, actually, the timing and the peak, let's look beyond the timing and the peak. Let's look beyond the outcome. Let's look beyond the moments that we think are going to change things, and look at what's flowing underneath it. Well, it says here, Jupiter and Leo expands obviously creativity, leadership and self-expression. So where are you taking charge of your own life? Where are you expressing your truth with Mercury retrograde in Cancer, these emotions are coming up to show where we may not be as authentic as we would like to be in what we are voicing, okay, and the impact that has not only on what we create, but the leadership and responsibility that we take as a result. Pluto in Aquarius, it says here, facilitates deep societal transformation, technology, and collective power. Now, yes, on a global level, we may very well see that. We're going to see lots of changes in power anyway. But again, really reflecting on any changes that this may have on you, any impacts this may have on you. You may see things going on outside of you, and it can really, really have an effect on your emotions. Now, I'm not saying don't let it have. We are part of the collective. You may be called to experience that for a reason. So an example, incredible market this week in the local village, and people were coming for readings and for healings, and they were feeling things that were going on around them, and they didn't want to feel those things. Rather than shut them off, rather than shut off their own emotional process, what we did was work with them. So the things that they were feeling were brought into the healing theirself and in ceremony transmuted. So it would be really great not to be so sensitive. But the truth of the matter is the more our awareness increases, the more sensitive we are to the energies around us. This isn't about shutting them off. This is about working with them. We can get very caught up in the technology and the advanced technology that is out there, but don't forget our own. Don't forget our own process as the hollow bone that can receive these things and work through them. The time we can't work through them, if we get stuck with them, is because we've made them personal. It's not to say they're not relatable, but if we make them so personal to our experiences that we hold on to them, nothing will shift. So we will feel things that are relatable to what is going on for us, and the invitation there is to do something with it. Now, you may sit and meditate. You may journal, you may dance, you may go to the gym, you may create something, alchemize this. And in alchemizing it, share it with others, complete the cycle. Yeah, patterns only continue for as long as we create them. So that's what's going to help with the transformation with society, recognizing we are all an individual component of that society and doing our bit. Okay, however we feel drawn to do that, and recognizing the technology that we are, and in doing so building this more collective power. Uranus and Gemini, so all these planets have really moved into different signs, which is, that's the whole emphasis here. The actual planets, the actual bodies have moved into different signs after certain amounts of time. Okay, so they've shifted the force that they are working with. Key there, okay? Shift the force that you're working with. Me working with astrology today seems to be going okay so far, but isn't something I would normally really focus on, particularly in a weekly reading. Uranus in Gemini is sparking innovation, communication, and new ideas. So I've just said that. Okay, so Uranus, the lightning bolt, the what I would call the Heyoka energy of the astrology, the world on its head, the Pachacuti type. Oh, that came out of the blue. Going with that, anything that comes out of the blue this week, work with it. Let it inspire new ideas. Help it to expand your awareness of what you do know. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Have some fun with it. Uranus can be really fun as well, unless we try and understand it. So trying to rationalize Heyoka energy is a no-go. Okay, the thunder beings. You don't logically explain that kind of energy. You work with it and you gain experience, and that becomes the wisdom. Not knowledge, but the application. That becomes the wisdom. And that's what actually sparks innovation and different types of communication. Again, communication is key, none more so than with ourselves. Okay, so with Mercury going retrograde into Cancer, what is going on for us emotionally? What is going on in that? I've just started a wonderful cup journey in the tarot. I'll put a link in the comments with Tiffany Crasara, and it's all about the still voice within. Now, even though this video is coming through very quickly and not as planned, when we get into that still voice within, so much more innovative information can come through us that we can work with in different ways. Neptune in Aries. Okay, so it says here, inspires spiritual courage, dissolves old myths, and encourages inner truth. Having the courage to see beyond our narrative, and I know that that's difficult. I know that that's difficult, but recognizing where some stories may have become addictive, where some pains may have become addictive, not because they're nice, but because they're familiar. Familiarity in a world that is so full of chaos can be the one thing that we cling to, even if we don't want to. Okay, and again, there's no judgment there. But is it helping you make a different choice? Is it helping you create something different? Is it helping you emotionally, physically, intellectually, or spiritually? What now do you need to bring in to have the courage of choice to say, actually, this is what I'm going to do with what I've gained. This is what I'm not. In order to dissolve these old myths, there is the self-fulfilling prophecy type energy here. Now, that's not to say I'm not a believer of things happening to you because of your mindset. I'm not a believer of things happening to you solely just for a reason. But I am a believer of being responsible for the focus that we have and the reaction that we have to something and the impact that can actually bring forward into any situations. It's not about lying to ourselves here, but it's also not about restricting ourselves. So things may come up and we may think, oh, I've been through this before. Yeah, you have. And what did you gain from that? What did you learn from that? What do you need as a result from that? It won't be to stay in the situation or the trauma that you first experienced. So be aware that that's just an initial part of the process. This isn't about avoiding the trauma. Good luck to anybody that can. When something happens, it's there on a cellular level. You don't get over it. You work with it and through it. So something comes up. Okay, it's going to initiate that. That's one part of the process. You don't have to stay there. So what's going to help you move through it, not over it, through it? How can you honor that in a different way? There's so many ways. Creativity, rites of passage, celebration. I know that sounds a bit strange, but celebration. We don't always need good things in order to celebrate. We can celebrate, oh, I've got through that and I've survived. I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to make a mark with that. Some people do tattoos or piercings or, a nice meal or a fire ceremony, or find a way to say, I have done this. Been here, bought the t-shirt. Okay, is there anything else on here? So it does say that it's seen as a supportive container for intense energies, offering a rare moment to integrate. This is from girlinthemoon.com, and I'll put the thing. Integrate personal and collective growth, question outdated systems, and explore new ways of living and organizing society. So a supportive container for intense energies. That's our body, right? It is a supportive container for everything that's going on. So really feeling into what your body needs in this moment, and perhaps why you may not be able to provide that. Let me just check the time. Okay, so slightly running out of time. So let's come off of Google. We don't need that anymore. Starting to run out of time for Instagram. So if you do want to hear how to navigate the week ahead, you will need to pop over to YouTube. I'm going to leave it there for the Instagram, so that I don't cut up the energy too much. That feels quite important, not to separate the energies too much, to have a line of distinction, to draw a line in the sand of what was and what is going to be. So if you want to find out how to navigate the week ahead, pop on over to YouTube or Spotify, or hopefully TikTok, and I shall see you next week. Stick with it, give your body what it needs, recognize yourself as the sacred vessel that you are, the container of these intense energies, and see you post new moon. If you are still here, or you've come over from Instagram, or you've been here all this time on YouTube, thank you. Thank you for continuing the journey with me, but continuing the journey with yourself and the guidance that wants to come through. That's one of the biggest choices, isn't it? To continue the journey, to be aware of what has happened, but to continue the journey, to continue walking. And that's what we're going to do by looking into the energies this week and how to best navigate them. So I don't think there's anything else to add on the stuff that we were talking about. Yes, there is. To recognize why we may or may not do things. And it's so multifaceted and so individual. I can only share my experience with you. And that's important, isn't it? Whatever people share with you is just their experience, just their translation. It's not to take over your own understanding of something, ever. This video included. Only you know what you're going through and what you're capable of. However, if this resonates, great. If it doesn't, great. Take all that is needed. And be aware that that's what we do, taking only that is needed, and be aware that if we don't recognize what is needed, we may be limiting what we actually need to receive in the nicest possible sense. So, a couple of examples. Change is a wonderful thing, and we all want change. We all claim to want change, and then we can come up against resistance, and that resistance can take so many guises. The amount of resistance and different approaches that my ego takes is a wonder. So creative. My ego is incredibly creative. We can think that it's external, we can think that it's money, we can think that it's something that we're healing. We can get to the point of awareness and take it no further. Okay, and that doesn't really initiate change because it doesn't complete the process. So being aware of why we may feel unable to follow things through this week. Again, it's an individual thing, but a couple of things that have come up for me. Definitely self-worth. We can know that we want to shift things. We can know who we could be when we shift things, but do we have the self-love to give ourselves permission to move on from what was? What has kept us safe? What has kept us alive to this point? Now, it may not be nice things, but it has kept us up until this point. It's been our security. The key here is not to get rid of that shadow aspect, not to get rid of that voice, not to get rid of that doubt or fear, but to give it a job. Give it another job. So if you're doubting something, then let that part of you question things and find an answer, but don't let it do everything. Okay? Recognize who's driving the bus here. Is it your doubt that's driving it? Is it your previous experiences, your inner child? Who's actually in control of what is being created here? The other thing as well, acknowledging that change itself for the outcome may not be enough. Now, an example of this, for as long as I can remember, I've wanted to do yoga and I just can't get inspired. I really struggle, and it's nothing to do with the teachers. I can say that it's this and this, but it isn't. It's nothing to do with my physical capabilities. I can say, oh, I can't do this. There's so many reasons. The teachers are no good. Nothing's in my area. I can't afford it. My body can't, blah, 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 blah. Now, some of these may have an element of truth, but this morning what I realized is the outcome of doing yoga for the sake of just getting strong isn't enough for me. Doing yoga as part of my everyday life, as part of my everyday practice, felt very sacred, and I was more interested in that. So acknowledge what it is that actually inspires you this week. And for some, it may be drama. That's okay if that works for you. If that works for you, that's great. If it doesn't, it's time to change it. For some, myself, it's depth, right? For others, or heaviness sometimes. For some, it may be catastrophe before something shifts. And again, if that works for you, just recognize it for what it is. It's your inspiration. It's your trigger point. It's your get up and act point. It's your initiator of choice point. For some, it may be a level of martyrdom before things start to shift. For some, it may be a narrative of only I can do this. And that's true. Yes, you can receive help and support from others, but only we can do the change. So recognizing what it is that's inspiring you. There's no point me trying to do yoga to lose weight or to get strong because I'm not that bothered. Obviously, otherwise I would have done it. However, to do yoga, to do part of my practice, my spiritual practice, yeah, that was quite a shock. I didn't expect that, but yeah. Now I'm excited. Tai Chi, Qigong, oh yeah, all of these things as part of my routine. Yeah, my practice every day. That inspires me. So figure out what is inspiring you. Question whether it still does. Change it if need be. And if not, run with that. Okay, so energies this week, because inspiration is the great container. Inspiration is the great container. It doesn't matter what is lining up around us if we're not inspired. The blog this week, I did start it by writing that I didn't want to be writing a blog. It wasn't inspiring me. I wanted to be outside, and I was so tired of talking about life and not living it. So tired of writing it but not living it. And that's on me. And that has brought through big choices this week. And I'm really pleased because it's changed a lot. So get honest. Mercury retrograde into our emotions, our deep emotions. Get honest with yourself. Without liberation, you might actually be surprised at some of the hidden beauties underneath if you can just continue through the process with curiosity. Why am I feeling this? Is this true? What am I feeling here? Can I allow myself to feel these things and be moved by my emotions. Allow the emotions to move through me, to shift, to clear, recognizing that's what the body does. The body is a ceremonial tool. Okay. Oh. What an incredible, incredible thing it is. Right. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. It does mean we will be encouraged to sit with things, to not sit still with them, but to feel them. And this isn't about healing. You know, the whole we have to feel to heal. That comes with such a negative energy. Like, oh, I've got to feel this because I've got to work my way through it and shift it. That's because it has a story. When we get into the energy, what are you feeling? Is it hot? Is it cold? Does it make your heart beat? Is it restrictive? Is it expansive? You know, get beyond the story. What are you actually feeling? This isn't about healing anything. We heal by coming into the body with presence. We heal by coming into balance. We heal with awareness. Yes, there's some great tools out there, from talk therapy to sound therapy to ceremonies to chumpy stones. There's some wonderful tools out there to help assist that. But we heal by simply being who we are. Okay, it's not about fixing. It's not about performance. It's not about what we can gain. It's about remembering who we are. Okay, energies this week. Yes, so the theme tune of the blog, actually, the from now on, and we will come back home, and we will come back home. Yeah, constantly this week, as often as we need to, back to the heart, back to the body, back to the soul, back to the stillness that we have within us, back to the trust of ourselves to manage whatever is going on, to be with whatever is going on, because a lot of what is being experienced at the moment is a forgetfulness of everything we've been through. It's ironic because it's bringing up so many previous experiences, and yet it's not bringing up the trust and confidence that those experiences have also had for us. Okay, energies this week and how to best navigate them. Yeah, Six of Pentacles, that flow. Okay, so even with our experiences, especially with our experiences, we talk about relationships and how we relate with things, and everything is relatable. Okay, all of our relations, right, from the stone people to the plant people to each other to the cosmos, you know, all of these things, but actually they're still seen as external. These external relationships, we are relating internally. So how do we do that with our own emotions? How do we do that with our own self? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, so we do have major arcanas this week, which is, I think, a little bit of a reprieve, actually. It does feel as if collectively there's been this essence of trying to figure it out almost on our own. Trying to, from a human perspective, and, you know, it's limited. Humanity is limited by its own self most of the time because it struggles to see the vastness of itself within the cosmos and within everything. So every now and then a element of fate is always welcome, not to shirk responsibility. And that's important, isn't it? How often do we leave things until we have no choice so that we can say we had no choice? And there's been the encouragement the last few weeks to not work that way with the universe, because it's very have things done to us. The opportunity here is to work with rather than have done to. Overall, we have the energy of temperance. So we take that Six of Pentacles, that balance, that flow, and we expand it into our everyday life, into the mundane chop wood, carry water. We bring the divine essence of life itself through our emotions, recognizing they are messengers of that, and allowing ourselves to restore balance with everything that we do as a result. Our emotions aren't here to make life hard. They may be fucking inconvenient, but they're not here to make things hard. They're here to tell us what is going on. They're reading the room. They're our protection. They are our guardian angel. Yeah, they are the ones that say, hang on, I feel this, I feel that. You know, it doesn't matter if they're true for the environment, they're true for us. And the more we listen, the more we can be the container of them in a nurturing, feminine, motherly way, the safer we're going to feel with them this week. Particularly on the Monday when we have the King of Wands, we have the masculine spiritual driving force here that asks us, what is guiding us? Is it the lion's pride? You know, Jupiter and Leo, is it the lion's pride? Is it the lion's heart? Is it the lion's vision, the lion's strength, the lion's truth, the lion's courage, the lion's patience? Is it all of the above or none of them? What is our driving force? What is Jupiter in Leo to us? What is being expanded here? And there is no judgment. It may be fear. Okay, but be aware of it. There is, you know, it could be martyrdom, but be aware of it. Recognize where, you know, the King of Wands is obviously the masculine, the spirit in masculine form. So our intuitive, inspirational ideas, if you will, that calling from within, that purpose, and the action that we give it. So what is the driving force here? Is it transmuting, transforming things, shedding light on things, illuminating things, warming things, or burning things out? That's our choice to discover and adapt or change or not, as the case may be. On the Tuesday, we have the first major arcana other than the overall energy of temperance, and it's justice. Now, this deck I adore. This is the Light Seers deck, and I adore this deck because justice is reflection. She's reflected back. Yeah, justice is an opportunity to draw the line. This is that line between what was and what could be in the reflection that we have of it. Pure and simple. Yes, we can talk about legalities. Yes, we can talk about probably changes of authority or relationship settlements out of court and things like, yes, of course, on the surface level we can talk about all the things that are happening out there, but justice encourages us to look at the balance that we have within as well. You know, with those scales, think of the energy of Matt. Is our heart as light as a feather? Are we authentically drawn to the truth that is coming through us? Are we applying that in how we see the world? Can we witness what is going on? Can we hold court for our own reflections, particularly on the Tuesday? Who will witness the witness? On the Wednesday, we have the Tower card, and there's something about that on the Tuesday, and it does feel collective. And the moment I feel into it, my whole solar plexus is clenched up, and it's like, oh, I need to know what that is. I need to know what that is. Or, I need to figure out what's going on. If I do, it will come. If we need to know the answers, set the intention and they will come, but not by us constantly chasing them, not by us trying to make them something before they've yet to form. Wait for the conversation. Learn to listen. Mercury in retrograde in Cancer. Feel, listen. Recognize that is half of the communication. Recognize we listen through our emotions, not through what we share. There's this often knee-jerk reaction when someone says something, and I do it all the time, to try and relate, but this knee-jerk reaction of, oh yes, da, 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 da. I relate, I can see you. That's not witnessing. That's empathy, that's sympathy. It is not compassion. Wait and listen, particularly with yourself, between the Tuesday and the Wednesday, because it's that that's going to shift things. It's that that's going to restore the harmony of justice, draw the line in the sand, and bring forward the change of the Tower. Okay, now the Tower, the first thing I see is that it's a tree and that there's a lightning bolt here. And when I see the tree, I see ancestry. I see the Heyoka energy of Uranus in Gemini. Uranus in Gemini is the 9 of Swords, I think, in the tarot, if I remember rightly, because I have it in my own astrology. It is that, oh God, I can't do any more, type energy. And there's a real lightning bolt moment coming in here from ancestry as well, that's saying actually that system needs to break down, that system needs to change, and it's going to change in however we need it. Okay, so we may find situations that are a bit of a shock to the system, but are they? We may find things unfolding around us that, particularly with the ancestors, like a loss of an ancestor or a loss of something that was important to an ancestor. So that could be inheritance, that could be a physical body, that could be a belief where someone says, no more, I'm not doing this anymore. And that could really cause a bit of a shake up in the ancestry. Not just those that are alive, but those to come and those that have been. However, the system here, the Tower card here, this has been a long time coming. This change has been a long time coming, even though the Tower seems sudden. And I know tarot readers are everywhere are going to be like, what? No, the Tower's sudden. It's been built up. It's not as, the system is not as supportive as it could be. Things need to change. It takes time to build things up, right? So it's like the 9 months of getting pregnant. I always used to say to women, give yourself at least 9 months to lose the weight, Give yourself time to incorporate this change. Recognize, even if it may come out of the blue, there is still time to allow things to just dissolve and start creating something new. Which, that's over the Tuesday, Wednesday new moon. On the Thursday, we then have the Page of Wands. So things are going to start to build. The momentum's going to start to build. And that's what's going to be quite quick. It's not what happens that's going to be quick. How we see it and how open we are to seeing it differently is what's going to start to shift things. And we're not going to get much time between that and then putting things into practice. Okay, because even though it can feel as if things are repetitive or long-term cycles, actually we're at the end point here. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to carry on. That doesn't mean that once we're through it, it's over. Life is a spiral. Okay, so we will get another version of it, and that's what we're going to start creating. And the key here is to recognize, again, I'm not a fan of saying that you make whatever happens to you happen. However, you could. You could be more consciously aware of that and have more of a say. So once things start to crumble, the other side of the Tower card as we lead into the start is to start rebuilding it. And that can be that can feel so far away. Okay, that can feel almost impossible to create something different. So the Page of Wands, small steps. Small steps. You're not alone here. Chuck the ideas out to the universe, but not from the same place that they were. And if you feel as if it's the same energy, stop, pause. The Page of Wands can rush in, or page energy can rush in. Thankfully, the Page of Wands is pretty standstill. So allow new ideas to come in. And if they're not new, don't act on them on the Thursday. Give yourself time. Of course, on the Friday, that's going to leave us a little bit undecided emotionally, because we're going to see these things as separate. For the time, we see our healing as separate, what we're creating is separate, our relationships are separate, the external is separate, the cosmos is separate. All the time we see these things as separate, we're going to be confused. The invitation on the Friday is to come back into unity with ourselves. Have some curiosity with all of the potential that you're facing. No one's saying you can only have one decision here. Go with whatever draws you first. Allow and remember and recognize the process of inspiration. On the Saturday, we have the Ace of Wands. That new ignition into manifestation, laws of attraction, our path, our journey, how we see ourselves. This Ace of Wands here is the reflection. This is the biggest thing, how we see ourselves. I did a incredible weekend training with a wonderful elder from Peru, and we always concentrate in the Western world now, having taken Eastern philosophies on board a lot, on the third eye, and I've always really struggled with that because I always feel energy here rather than here. I get some here, but it's mainly here. And over the weekend we discussed the Puhu, I think it's called the Puhu here, but basically where the soul comes back in. Okay, so they don't really have a third eye as such in these Andean traditions. It's more up here, and it's where the soul comes back in, the star of people type energy. On the Saturday, be open to that. On the Saturday, be open to the reflections of yourself and allow aspects that you may have pushed to one side to come back. Sometimes when whatever is here to inspire us is here to inspire us to stand in our fullest potential, even if it is fear. it's an invitation to get that courage. If it is martyrdom or guilt or shame, it's an invitation to call back those soul aspects that we've pushed aside as a result of those things. So, if things haven't quite worked out how you would have liked, it can be really, really hard to get the motivation. Particularly if the body is like, well, there's no point, this has happened, that's happened. And that's, that's understandable. But it is an opportunity to say, okay, to all those parts of me that has happened on the Saturday, come home. Come home, soul. Come home, little one, to the inner child. Come home to that part of me that has been through this and that part of me that never felt enough. Come home. The invitation this week is come home. When we're not sure what's driving us, when we're not sure how to restore balance, when we're not sure how to cope with changes, when we're not sure what we want to create, when we're not sure what we're feeling, come home to the body, to the truth, to the presence, to the stillness. There's going to be a lot about presence, particularly in social media. There's going to be a lot about influencing without sustenance. Okay, so start with yourself. Come home. On the Sunday, what that does is that brings a more inspiring feminine, even though the Knight of Wands is normally a masculine in other decks, in this one it's a feminine, and she's banging on her drum. Yeah, she's inspirational. She's moving with the energy of the horse in the background. That fire, that transformation, that freedom that has gone from the King of Wands. This is how it's always been. This is, how it's going to be. That's more, by the end of the week, open to a different beat, recognizing our own rhythm within it, but remaining open to what could be as well. Underneath it, like I've said before, that's the Six of Pentacles. That's what flow is. Okay, yes, it's giving and receiving. Yes, it's reciprocity. Yes, it's irony. Yes, it's relationships and, relatability to our scenarios. But flow is to be open. Nothing more, nothing less. I'll see you next week for the wonderful basket case that we are. Take care.